Monkey labor? It's not cute, and we're not talking the old-fashioned organ grinder, but pure enslavement. Animal slavery that gets you your Thai coconut milk. Putting a stop to Thailand's coconut monkeys next on the PETA Podcast. Welcome to the PETA Podcast. I'm Emil Guillermo, your host for this behind-the-scenes look at PETA, the largest animal rights organization in the world. Animals aren't ours to be used for food or entertainment. That we know. It's part of PETA's signature system of ethical values. But in Thailand, animals, specifically monkeys, are being used in a strange way to actually harvest coconuts. It's not just a quaint tourist thing. The monkeys are working in a manner that's antiquated and cruel. Video footage obtained by PETA shows monkeys practically enslaved, forced to pick coconuts, then returning to small cages in the backs of trucks until the next harvest. The videos are causing a stir from the UK to Asia, and while other coconut producers in Asia have modernized, Thailand is the only country that continues to rely on monkey labor. Here's my conversation with Jason Baker, Vice President and Head of PETA Asia, on the PETA Podcast. We were watching these videos, or it shows monkeys enslaved by coconut growers. I guess, one would think, well, maybe that's a natural thing for monkeys to not be enslaved, but to go grab the coconuts and
climb trees.
Climb trees, yeah, that's a natural thing. But for human beings to now take the monkeys and essentially enslave them to do this work, that's not right, is it?
So it's an interesting issue because it used to be more common 20, 30 years ago. Places like India and Malaysia were in Indonesia were doing this. And now it's only Thailand. And what it is, and living in Asia for the past 20 some years, I thought it was sort of more well known. And so I decided one day that I wanted to take a harder look at it. There's so much animal cruelty, we can't take it all on. So we do what we can. So I just decided one day that we needed to look harder at this. So what they do, I learned a lot about the coconut industry that I never knew. I grew up in America. To me, a coconut is a small brown round thing that you buy in a grocery store. Didn't know that they come in these bigger outer green husks. And what we found is that there's these monkeys kept in sheds, kept on chains, kept in cages, kept just in terrible conditions, alone. Our taxi drivers were always telling us about how these monkeys were being taken from the wild, and they train them through force to just pick coconuts. It's an archaic, outdated system that most countries have gone away from, and Thailand still does it.
Now, it would seem natural, though, wouldn't it, if for monkeys, this is their thing. They go and chase and grab coconuts. If it's for themselves or for their own consumption, how quaint tourists can see that and take a picture, right? I mean, that's kind of
I mean, if these people, farm plantation owners, would let the monkeys off the chain, the monkeys would leave.
Yeah,
there's no holiday for them. So climbing may be natural, but there's lots of natural things that aren't natural when you're enslaved, and so it's really the conditions they live in almost when they're not picking, because it's not like they get time off. They don't get to go back with their families. They're kept in these terrible, chained, lonely conditions when they're not picking.
Now, if it weren't for the monkeys, would there be human beings picking the coconuts?
Yeah, there would be, or there's coconut picking machines. There's also different varieties of coconuts. So the good news, and I toured a lot of these farms, there's dwarf coconuts, which is what coconut water comes from for the most part. If it's super cheap coconut water, it might come from what they call curry coconuts, the taller ones. But if you're having an expensive coconut water from Thailand, it came from these dwarf trees. So the idea is, to move away from the taller trees into different varieties, to use machines, to use people, to use. They have these extremely long tools. That the benefit of humans picking them are they can actually pick the ripe ones. If you send monkeys up, because they're not all ripe at the same time, if you send a monkey up, they just take them all down. So there is an actual economics on top of it that you can that you can look at. So
it makes sense for the humans to pick and not the monkeys, but why do the farmers then rely on the monkeys? Because
the obvious thing would be cheap labor, but the difference is India, the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, all bigger coconut producers don't use monkeys. So I really do think that it is partly the government's fault for not helping to modernize the industry. That this is what they've been doing for 20, 30, 50, 100 years, and they haven't moved away from it. And it's just, and where else will they can see a better efficiency, and it's hurting the industry, I think. And right now, today, I'm on 12 hours so far today, because the government in Thailand is trying to basically claim it's not happening. It's like there's so many videos online. This is something that the tourist industry has talked about, and suddenly they're acting like it's not happening. And I'm really like, but the video's right there. And no, that's not it. And there's just so many videos. Yeah. And so right now we're trying to convince the government, instead of just denying, they're at a crossroads here. They can look to lead the industry to modernizing, to do what the rest of the world does, or they can give it a terrible reputation and send it down the path that it's already on, and it's going to lead to companies pulling out. Already, Giant, Lion, if you know those grocery stores, Tesco's in the UK, Walgreens, they've all stopped, either pledged to never buy from Thailand, or they've stopped buying. So it's having an effect already.
Now,
yeah.
Well, Jason, these videos that you got, how did you get them? Were they undercover PETA people? Were they just given to you by locals who were appalled by the conditions of the monkeys? How'd you get them?
It's undercover investigators. It was a difficult case, actually, because 2 weeks into the investigation, the investigator couldn't take it and quit. So we were suddenly having to get another investigator in there and pick up where they left off, and that happens. So we went to a dozen places, 8 farms, 4 monkey schools, which is where they train them to pick the coconuts. And they have a little side business where they try to bring tourists in to laugh at monkeys picking coconuts. So we without giving it all away, we went in from different sides and we're looking at it, and just it has been so popular and so accepted for so long that there really wasn't a question. They didn't question us when we wanted to go see this, which makes the government's response just such a farce, because they can't deny it, and it's politicians playing politics.
Yeah. So you got the investigation. You had your investigator go in, take the videos. Tell me about the videos. Describe what you're seeing. How many monkeys are we talking about who are involved in this whole trade?
Yeah, well, it is extremely difficult to know the full scale. The industry is in southern Thailand, and it's massive. It's a major export for Thailand. But there's also, if people know Thailand, it's not a very well regulated country at the best of times, and this is an industry that is very unregulated. So it was literally a matter of us going to farm to farm to farm and documenting it. But we estimate maybe 1,000 monkeys, could be more. It was really difficult for us we actually spent 2 months after we concluded the investigation trying to look at different options of places maybe in the south that don't use monkeys, and other countries, and But and it is, what kept getting me, and what I kept talking to our investigator about, was the sadness and the loneliness of it. It isn't, to me, so much the process of picking the coconut. That is maybe the best part of their day. It is the part where they're in the back of a pickup truck in a cage for a week while they're at one farm picking the coconuts at one farm, or it's being kept on a chain in the back of a hut until the next person calls to come pick their coconuts. These aren't families. They for the most part are monkeys that come from the wild, so they know what it's like. They know what they're missing. They aren't playing. They aren't having fun. They aren't with their families. It is maybe in an American comparison. You could compare it to the lonely backyard dog that no one cares about, the chained dog that no one cares about, that's been forgotten. They throw some food out there. So that to me was what I was really trying, and it's hard to capture video of loneliness.
Yeah, but you don't hesitate to call it enslavement at all, really?
No, it is. It's so terrible. It's so heartbreaking. They are there until they die. Some of them will be sent off to tourist shows potentially when they get old. But there's no happy ending for these animals. This isn't like a part-time job.
Now, I was in Thailand a few years back, in the southern part, down from Phuket down to Malaysia, in that area. So I remember every cave we stopped at, there were monkeys everywhere. And there were signs that say, "Do not feed the monkeys." The monkeys were almost like people here in the United States would look at squirrels. And it was kind of cute, but, the tourists, they loved the monkeys. But I couldn't imagine the monkeys being taken and then enslaved, essentially, and put to work in a farm. What kind of monkey are we talking about? Are these macaques?
Yeah, small little macaques that you would, exactly like what you would see on a tourist trip. And let me be clear too. Thailand is a wonderful place. I had an email today from a group we've worked with for 10 years that said, "Hey, we just want to let you know that the Thai people also don't like this. And just because our government is saying that they're against what PETA is saying, it doesn't mean that the population is." I go to Thailand very often. They actually have in October, they have a 10-day vegan festival where every restaurant has a vegan menu. And if you're a foodie, it is the most insane time ever. 7-Eleven has a vegan section with vegan curries and vegan. It's totally insane. And so I do highly recommend to people going to Thailand. It's just there are bad things, like there are bad things in America. There is going on from that. There's elephant camps and there's crocodile parks, and for animals and entertainment, Thailand has a lot of problems, a lot of them. We are working to address them as best we can, and it just, we chip away.
The investigations made the news in Thailand and Asia, and the Thai government, are they embarrassed? They've put out these statements that try to deny it, but I guess there's some embarrassment associated with the being caught so red-handed with the videos, though. No,
I mean that's my assumption. But from what they're saying, I mean, it really is. You read their statements and you're like, how can you claim it's not happening? It's just, it hit the papers in a big way. It debuted in the Telegraph, a major paper in the UK. Reuters, one of the largest news wires in the world, has had 3 stories out now. So literally yesterday, I was going through clippings to see what's being said, and I was reading things in Korean and Japanese and Malayalam, and there was just everything. So it really is everywhere. And just on some background to this, the case was actually finished right as coronavirus was hitting. And so we were trying to get this out, but at the same time, the world just, obviously, like everyone knows, and it hit hardest at first in Asia. So so to see it come out now finally is great. And because when you do investigations, you never know if they're going to break big.
Yeah.
You always want them to be everywhere. You always want people to know, but they don't always. They don't always go viral. And I was looking today at a Russian fur farm investigation we did, and it just wasn't as big as I had hoped. And I do think that if the world knew what is happening on these Russian fur farms and how they're as bad as the ones in China, that I think that people would be really interested. Yeah. So just sort of some of the background on getting an investigation out, you really want to, that applies the most pressure.
Yeah. In the meantime, it seems a monkey story people gravitate to. Is it because of the video, because of the images of the monkeys climbing up and getting the coconuts? It seems like kind of an oddity, but it's also cruel, unusual, and it's inhumane how the monkeys are treated.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, it there is a marketing to it. If they had been other animals, maybe it wouldn't have done well. There is a side thing to this that helped spark it a bit. Boris Johnson's fiance, the Prime Minister of the UK, she tweeted about it and saying how shocked and surprised she was, and so that helped lift it into a sort of a political arena and grabbed a lot of attention, and so it's just sort of steamrolling from there, and it's gotten bigger. And I do have to say for the investigations that we do, I have a lot of hope on this one.
Yeah. Well, Britain apparently gets about 8% of the Thailand coconut market. Thailand, does it give a lot of coconuts to the United States? I mean, it's a $400 million industry, and could it be hurt by this negative publicity?
It can be. I mean, there is lots of tricky things that I learned about it. They are the 7th largest producer in the world. So there are bigger producers than them. But a lot of countries, what we're finding, and then I think as the reputation changes, this is going to change. But we found that Vietnam and Malaysia are sending coconuts to Thailand to make products there so they can send it off as Thai coconut milk and Thai coconut products. And so what's interesting is these are cruelty-free coconuts coming in, now getting a cruel stamp on them. So there's a lot that's going to that's going to change, I think, in very quickly, because what I've really been trying to drive home to the government is today people more than ever are speaking with their pocketbooks. They can buy a different coconut milk, and they will. And so if you don't change things, that people will just stop buying it. And I really do. I think they're already being hit, to be honest. We've had so many emails in today from people who want to know, where can I get what coconut milk is okay, what isn't, and that's all being worked out right now. We don't have a lot of answers. I did have several people ask me if the coconut milk at Starbucks was okay, and I did a quick search and saw that it's from Indonesia, so it probably is. I can't speak for sure, but there is a sort of a drive that is going to push this.
Now, the government is responding. Are the farms owned by the government, or is the government talking about on behalf of the industry? What about the private owners? Are they involved? Are they saying anything?
There is 2 main companies that supply coconut milk around the world. Aroy-D and Chaokoh. And when we started this campaign, didn't think, I was like, I've never heard of those. Mm-hmm. And then when I saw the labels in stores, I was like, oh yes, of course we know those. So they're all over. And so those are the 2 big ones. If we can, and those are the 2 that have the money and the power and the control to work with the different farmers and end this. And that's what they need to do. That's where the pressure is on. One of them, neither of them are really saying anything. One is saying nothing, and one is saying that they need to basically get more information. And so.
Right. So the companies again, Aroy-D, AROY-D, and Chaokoh, CHAOKOH, 2 companies there. can't imagine they could withstand the negative publicity, but would they just simply have to go back to machine and human collection? I mean, do they rely so heavily on the monkeys? Is it something is it just like a novelty, or is it really a matter of they couldn't get the business model to work if they weren't using the monkeys?
I do think they can get the business model to work. We found several farms in northern Thailand, which is not a major coconut producing area. But we found several that don't use monkeys. It's just they use long tools. I mean, to see these tools, it's quite fascinating. I was saying I went around to a bunch of farms, and to see these tools that are several stories high, and they're going up and sawing at the coconuts, and is fascinating to see. So yeah, I think that the economic model, I think it has to, because they don't have any choice, to be honest.
And Jason, what's happening with the stores? You said already some stores like Walmart in Asia, they're taking a stand on this against using or buying these coconut.
Tesco's in the UK, Giant and Lion stores. Those are, I don't know if I think maybe they're East Coast stores.
Yeah, East Coast.
So some major ones: Walgreens Boots, which is a chain in the UK. At last count, and I have to admit I have lost count, but at last count it was 16,000 stores that were not going to be stocking Thai coconut products. Yeah. So that's huge. That economic impact has got to be felt very quickly.
And what can our listeners do in the meantime while it would appear that this is a kind of an ongoing negotiation between, is it PETA and the government, or is it just something between that the companies are going to have to dictate this because they're responding to consumers? What do you think?
I think it always comes down to consumer, and I never trust government to do the right thing. They tend to follow what the businesses want, and I think it's always PETA's philosophy that you get the companies to act. And this really is something that, and everyone listening can do something about. They can say something at their grocery store. They can say something to online retailers. They can say something to the coffee shops they go to. This is a big issue, and it hits individuals. It's not something where we're talking about some company doing something far away that they can't control. They can actually have an economic impact and put pressure locally, because every time a retailer speaks to their supplier and says, "Don't give me this," it adds the pressure, and it's key. Everyone has to do it. Please, please, please.
And Jason, tell me, where can people see the video? Where can they see the monkeys? Yep. And how they live? I mean, because that really is kind of, I mean, to see the monkeys climbing and picking the coconut, it seems kind of cute. And then you see how they live, and then you see, no, this is not cute at all. Where can they see those videos?
Well, PETA.org, also PETAAsiaPacific.com. PETA Asia Pacific has a bit more information because it's sort of our big release. It's the same videos, but a bit more details. We talk a little bit more about coconut water. Partly we do that because we need the help of the coconut water industry to push the rest of the coconut industry along, and so they can be a real ally. And there is one called Harmless Harvest, which is available at Whole Foods, coconut water, and they were really great. They took me on a tour all day, showed me processes, and so there are really some good people in the coconut industry in Thailand, and so part of me believes that that's how we're gonna hopefully get there. But PETA.org, PETA.org, that is your best bet. It's right on the front page. But also always, the campaigns that I do, PETAAsiaPacific.com, and follow PETA Asia Pacific on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. We really do have a different, there's regular PETA, and they cover lots of us, but there's also a little differences, the Asian things that we do, and you can learn about the tall dogs and what's going on with them, and all of those campaigns.
All right. And while we have you, and you mentioned the tall dogs, and we've done some podcasts about about how the dogs were stranded and you had to save them when the volcano erupted there in Tal. What's a quick update there? I guess we haven't seen any new eruptions. Are dogs back safely, or what's the situation?
So there's no dogs on Tal now. Nobody. There's supposed to be nobody on Tal. I'm sure there are some fishermen that are going over every now and again. And there's been no eruptions. There's been no real quakes. We took 200 dogs off of Tal, and there is currently about 10, maybe 12 that are still looking for forever homes. It was right when we were set to launch our big adoption drive, the coronavirus hit, and so we've had this great staff that are there 24 hours a day, taking care of them and making sure they've all gotten homes, and so we're down to the last few. Some of them have some social issues. Our whole staff have bonded with them, and we are super strict on getting them great homes because they've had a pretty terrible life. And so happy endings for a lot of them.
Okay. Well, listen, Jason, thank you very much for joining us on the PETA podcast. Thank you. Good luck on the case with the monkeys.
Yeah, hopefully next time we talk, it will be that there are no more monkeys being used in Thailand for coconuts.
Jason Baker, Vice President of PETA Asia, on the hideous case of monkey slave labor in the coconut industry in Thailand. To end the practice, stop using Thai coconut milk, check the labels, and see the video at PETA.org. And that's our program. Hey, you can contact us at PETA.org. You can find me on Twitter at Emil Amok, that's EMILAMOK, or on ALDEF, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. It's at aaldef.org/blog. You can see my writing there and see more of what else I do at amok.com. Once again, thank you for listening. Check out all our episodes on Apple Podcasts, where you can rate and review the show. It helps get the word out about the issues you care about. Our music is provided by Carbon Works. Check them out on YouTube. And join us again next time for more insight into animal rights and the fight for a cruelty-free world on the PETA Podcast. I'm Emil Guillermo.